Hello and welcome to this edition of Tech24 with me, Rebecca Bowring. Coming up in the programme. Now you're talking my language, or you soon could be. Translation is big business in today's global village. We'll take a look at the best multilingual tools for PC, tablets and smartphone. And no more boring slideshows. Tell an engaging story with Prezi, a cloud-based presentation canvas loaded with visual effects. We'll hear from one of its creators in Test24. As cross-border business grows, there's an ever greater need for translation services. The rise of free web-based programs like Babelfish and Google Translate hasn't undermined the success of the professionals. The industry has an estimated value of 27 billion euros this year. Now it's companies offering crowdsourced translation they're hoping to amp up their market share. They farm work out to multiple translations simultaneously, saving time and money. Websites and apps, including Facebook and controversially LinkedIn, have used the tool to appear multilingually almost overnight. My guest on the programme this week is Evan Samek, entrepreneur and business designer. Thanks for being with us. Now, you've worked a lot with translation startups. Tell us a little bit more about the shape of this industry. If I understand rightly, it's made up of a lot of very small companies.
That's correct. I mean, the interesting thing about the translation market is that despite the size, $27 billion, this is an incredibly fragmented market. The largest players in there are only taking out around a couple $100 million a year. So you have a large opportunity for freelance translators and small translation shops that are generally based on personal relationships. You have new technology coming in, such as SpeakLike and MyGango, that are using interesting platforms to give freelance translators a more consistent access to work. And finally, you have sites like Facebook, LinkedIn, that are tapping into their own groups of dedicated users to translate their sites overnight sometimes.
And another big one is Pinterest, the social media darling of the moment. There was a bit of a controversy that broke out there when they said that they were going to use this crowdsourced translation to get their sites out in multiple languages, because people were saying that quality just isn't guaranteed.
That is correct. I mean, on any project, when you're distributing the work across a number of different people, there will be challenges about maintaining consistency across the board. The great thing about using crowdsourced translation, though, when it's used effectively, is that the different translators, people contributing to the work, can also help to police each other's work and provide feedback, so that ultimately you're getting a wide array of opinions, and you're taking the better average of all of that.
So they can kind of establish rules for what words are used in what context, so that in the end it is quite consistent. Exactly.
And another thing that these technology companies use are very advanced and subtle methods of using translation memory, which allows them to minimize the duplicates across languages, but then import what has been translated before on new work, so that it's not being translated again by somebody who hasn't seen it before.
Let's move quickly on to, let's change in tack slightly, I know, but the tools available to us if we want to learn a language. There's a slew of apps on the market to help train the brain, and you're going to introduce us to a couple because you've been learning French and Mandarin Chinese.
I've studied Mandarin for about 2.5 years and pretty intensely before, but recently I've been updating myself on this, and a fantastic app is called Mind Snacks, where each different language has different levels of complexity. And what's wonderful about Mind Snacks is that it has built in a series of games that help to address these different levels of complexity. So, for example, they have one for Mandarin where you actually get to practice the tones themselves. And it's a great way of memorizing those tones and the pronunciation.
Through competing with yourself, wanting to get through all of the levels and unlock other games. There's also one called Memrise available on the internet and as an application, which uses the analogy of a garden, and for each word you plant a seed, which you then have to grow.
Exactly. So Memrise they use innovative ways of allowing you to associate images with, I mean, in the sense of Chinese characters, the actual character itself. I mean, it's an excellent mnemonic device to remember that particular character. And they extend that visual element into a game as well, where you get to cultivate these different words that you have learned in this garden of knowledge.
And there is also an open source one called Anki that our viewers can check out online. Stay with us. We'll be meeting a polyglot with an eye for presentation next. He's lived all over the world, finds his inspiration on aeroplanes and is writing a Japanese cookbook in Swedish. Peter Arvai is the CEO of Prezi, software that acts as a kind of interactive whiteboard for presentations. Here he is sharing his philosophy on innovation with Tech24.
With the help of all of these digital technologies that we have today, we are spreading an awareness around the world what it takes to innovate. And the core is really just this. You know, having a dream of how you want to change the world.
Evan, you've been looking at how his product Prezi works. What does it offer us that maybe PowerPoint doesn't, for instance?
So the wonderful thing about Prezi is that it gives you the option to have both linear and nonlinear presentations. So when you, let's say that you're dealing with an audience or presenting to an audience that is going to be much more engaged and interactive with you, it provides you this 3D world that you can then explore and show how the information all relates to each other.
There's also a collaborative aspect.
Exactly. So similar to Google Docs, Prezi has built a web application that allows you to create and manage these documents online. And so while you're doing that, it gives you that link that you can then share with, I think it's up to 8 people or so, and you get to collaborate on. And as you're moving through this space, one of the fun things about Prezi is that each person has their own little avatar, so you see where their focus is going and what they're working on, and you have the one person who gets to direct the attention through the document itself.
So it's been making huge waves in the business presentation tools world. It's about €4 a month for a basic subscription, around about 11 for a pro. Value for money?
Well, if presentations are a big part about what you do, I mean, if you're a CEO or if you're somebody that has a very big consumer component, then it's a product that you definitely want to consider, because one of the really great things about Prezi is that value that the presentation has after the actual presentation itself is over. So when you put that online and load it up for people, you get to identify the path through the information that they can follow then on their own, and it really gives you a sense of exploring the information and exploring the content.
But also it's important to say that a presentation is only as good as a presenter, I guess.
Well, exactly. I mean, one of the downsides is that some people complain about it taking a long time to design a really good presentation. That's true regardless of the tools that you're working with. And sometimes the animation itself that's built in and a really interesting part of it can distract from the presentation if you're not careful.
Isn't it? But 10 million people are using it, so they must be doing something right. Thank you very much, Evan Summick, for coming in to speak to us. That's just about it from the Tech24 team. Get in touch with us on Facebook, on the URL coming up in the corner of your screen, and follow us on Twitter at TechF24. We end the show this week with a reminder of how beautiful our planet is. Sit back and enjoy this time-lapse video by photographer Knete Myers. The images come from the International Space Station.